Suze Orman was right, and I was wrong. You can't retire because of healthcare costs. I'm sorry, she was right. Oh man, how could I have gotten this wrong? So all of you people who retired, you're out there enjoying your life. You've lost some weight. Your brain is out of this fog now. You're feeling good. You're sprite. You men, you're looking at your ladies in a different way. You know what I'm saying? You're like, hey, ladies, let's go upstairs. And your wife's like, I can't, honey. I got menopause. Well, sorry. You gotta get back. You gotta get back at it. You gotta go back to the job, man. You gotta go back to the crappy old job and we'll go to those DEI sessions because they're very, very important. Diversity, equity, and inclusion. Very, very important for DEI. ESG sessions, the anti-white propaganda is very important because, us pale skins, we're just bad. Oh, man, I'm sorry. I was wrong. I was wrong. Oh, my goodness. Why did I steer you guys so wrong? So let's check out these couple studies there that you'll get a kick out. All right, here by Michael Hurd and Susan Rowetter, who I like to call Rottweiler because she freaking crushes. Because she's literally taking the naysayers of the retirement planning industry in the jaws and her, I guess it's a husband. I don't know if they're married or not, but whatever. They're her compatriot Michael Hurd, and he's a Hurd stomping through the retirement naysayers because they've crushed. Now this is a paper from 2009. Then we're going to look at this other paper from 2016, where the NIH. We don't want to challenge the NIH, especially the biotechnology information from the NIH. I mean, they know everything, right? Here, I just had a chuckle because I read that. I said, wait a second. I was reading this article from a right-wing blog. COVID is revving up for another round by this clown, Henry I. Miller, who basically says you need to get your vaccines up to date and you need to be wearing a mask. And he cites this evil man, Michael Osterholm, from the University of Minnesota. And there's a lot of bad stuff coming from the University of Minnesota, my friends. I tell you, that's where Ansel Keys came from. That's where the study on the Alzheimer's drug, the Ambigillion B or whatever it was, just some bad stuff. Then Osterholm is a part and parcel. Anyway, I just had a chuckle. Osterholm contracted COVID in March, apparently while hosting a few tested guests for dinner and attending a small uncrowded music show while he's wearing his N95 mask. And for several weeks, he experienced the onset of long COVID. By weeks 3 and 4, the fatigue really set in, worse than during the illness itself, and I started having memory loss. If you ask me what a champagne and orange juice drink, I couldn't have thought of the word mimosa. Maybe you're drinking too much. That's why you're in a fog there. You're drinking too much, you freaking clown. Anyway, so anyway, this guy right here, Henry Miller, goes back here. He says, we shouldn't underestimate the importance of avoiding COVID infection in the first place because it's coming back. What we should do, we should take protective measures, including getting up to date on COVID vaccines, including a new round expected to be available in September, October. I'm sure Osterholm was vaxxed to the max, dude. And wearing a mask in moderate or high-risk situations, because Osterholm's N95 mask didn't protect him. Anyway, this whole thing's just so freaking stupid. But I just laughed because he was the founding director of the FDA's Office of Biotechnology. Interesting. And this is where this thing comes from, National Center for Biotechnology from the NIH. I don't know if the FDA is part of the NIH. I don't know, but I just had a chuckle. All right, so we're just going to cut to the chase here because we're going to show you something here right now. And if you're on my live stream last night on Locals, we dove into this article very explicitly. So join the Local channel because we talk about these papers in detail. I'm not going to get in detail here because I want to keep the videos lower. But anyway, we talk about this paper. Every Wednesday and Saturday at 8 p.m. Eastern time, we dive into topics that you're not going to hear anyone else. $5 a month. $5 a month, dude. And you can participate. You can post stuff. It's great. I very much enjoy it. I got not a huge Locals channel. Don't want a huge Locals channel. But if you're interested in deep dive of topics, every Wednesday and Saturday. Now, last night I did it on Tuesday because I have a family obligation tonight. All right. Cut to the chase, Josh. All right, right here. Because the general increase in healthcare costs has become increasingly important from the view of the public in terms of scientific studies of economic behavior. For example, economic preparation for retirement is of substantial policy concern, yet there is considerable controversy over the level of economic preparation. We, Hurd and Rowetter, show that spending levels of most households shortly following retirement are consistent with their economic resources. In fact, a considerable fraction of households will die with leftover wealth. You don't hear that in the day-to-day. Others, for instance, the National Retirement Risk Index or the Centers for Retirement Research at BC, assert that 61% of households are at risk for not having enough to maintain their life cycle, their living standards. And I've destroyed the National Retirement Risk Index. It's just so clown show. It's like, I mean, I used to give these guys the benefit of the doubt. Now I can't do it anymore. It's a clown show, and I'm not going to do that here today. But it's like, oh my goodness. I mean, so you think Michael Hurd and Susan Rowetter, you think they get as much funding as the CRR, Center for Retirement Research? No, because Hurd and Rowetter said, it's great, sun's out. Whereas the Centers for Retirement Research at Boston College, we're all going to die. Who gets more funding? It's just such a clown show. Let's keep going. Economic models of life cycle saving and retirement that account for uncertainty of health status and spending use data about the level and distribution of out-of-pocket health care. All right, and in some cases, the model estimations depend critically on these data. For example, in Donardi, French, and Jones, a few very large out-of-pocket expenditures by people in their late 90s have in their estimated model an important influence on the rate of wealth change among people in their 70s. That doesn't make any sense. Yet we have little understanding of the accuracy of these measurements. All right, so we're going to scroll down all the way to the bottom here. We're going to scroll down. This is dated from the 2002, 4, and 6 data. All right, and this is pre-Medicare Part D. The next article will be 2008, 10, and 12 data with Medicare Part B. All right, so the 2-year average out-of-pocket spending by households between the years 2002, 4, and 6, the 2-year average. The average of the top 1% of spenders, the top 1%, the median of the top 1% was $90,000. The median, the top 1%. The 2-year out-of-pocket spending, the median was $90,000. We can say that's about probably $200,000 in today's dollars. All right, $200,000 because it's 2002, 4, and 6. I'm using a 5.5% inflation adjustment. The median was $90,000 for the top 1% for 2 years of spending. All right. That's not going to break the bank. That's the median. And that means also, by the way, the top 1%, the median means half the people spent less than that $90,000. You take the top 10 spenders, and their median was $434,000. And we have some significant issues on how HRS got their study because we actually look here, we say, wait, the basic top spenders, here's 90%, that's going to be confusing in a way, but here's the distribution of 2-year out-of-pocket spending by single people. And the 90 percentile, that means 89% of the people spent less. The average was 6,400. But the top last percentile, the 100th people spent $555,000. Yeah, and this is where Suzanne and Michael challenged the HRS. They're saying, are you guys actually doing diligent research on how, because HRS is very all-encompassing, all kinds of different economic models. Are they actually doing enough to see the outliers, or the outliers just kind of a little bit guesses essentially? That's where they challenge. All right, so that, anyway, even if we use the outlier, are you going to be in the top literally 10? Probably not. Literally, it's like you're going to say, I'm going to win the lottery. Not likely to happen. All right, so then we got there's 5 quintiles. In the middle quintile, between 40 and 60%, the 2-year out-of-pocket spending. All right. Out-of-pocket spending in the top between 40 and 60% was $3,500. $3,500. Yeah. And again, if we use that and we extrapolate that today, it's about $7,000 a year. Pretty doggone close to where I have. That's 2-year spending. I got that's 2 years. So it's not $7,000 a year. It's $7,000 over the course of 2 years. Oh, look at that. 2-year out-of-pocket spending. $3,500 in 2002, 4, and 6, and 2009 and 2004 numbers. We can say that $7,000 in today's numbers at a 5.5% increase. That's over 2 years. Right. So, you can see here, man. The top 1% spenders. Again, we talked about that $90,000. All right, and then we just go right here. Annualized out-of-pocket spending by individuals total. So annualized. These are 2 years. So we're going to do annualized now. So this is every year. The top 95% of expenditures, the people who spent spent more than 95% of others. If you did not include drugs, because now we got Medicare Part D, and they didn't have Part D back then, you spent $5,800 on out-of-pocket spending. $5,800 in the top 95th percentile. And then if you excluded drugs, because remember back then we didn't have Part D, you only spent $2,500. That's it. Wow, that's the top 95th percentile. The top 1 percentile, the people who spent more than 99% of the population, they spent, if you excluded drugs, $8,000 on out-of-pocket expenditures. We'll say that's what, 20,000 today's numbers. All right, crazy. Now the max, yeah, if you're the one of the top, tippy top, as our esteemed economic guru from Boston University, Alexander Ocasio-Cortez says, yeah, you did spend a lot of money. That's what's going to keep you from retirement. All right, so now let's go to these guys' study. This is, they take a little bit issue with Hurd and Rowetter. Let me show you right quick. And they look, oh, Donardi, French, and Jones. We already talked about that, did we not? Yes, we did. We did talk about the Donardi. Oh, Donardi again. Donardi everywhere. So let me show you what I'm talking about here. Where I showed you how Donardi, French, and Jones, they extrapolate people in their late 90s to use that data as for people in their 70s. Pablo, which doesn't make any sense. But anyway, I'm not bashing them. I just find there's a lot of disputes among the data. All right, check. They actually take issue with Hurd and Rowetter saying that the HRS overstates their data. Because the article we just went over, they say, while Hurd and Rowetter find that aggregate spending in the HRS is up to 60% greater than the aggregate based on the other two data sets that are solely focused on healthcare, others find that the aggregate spending in the HRS is close to the aggregates of the others. Okay, and then we got, again, Donardi, French, and Jones again. Interesting. Anyway, I don't even care. We'll use the HRS. It doesn't matter. I'm going to show you one thing and one thing only. This is what it comes down to. Means and percentiles by category, core interviews from 2008, 2010, and 2012 after Medicare Part D. The core interviews are people who are still alive. So what happens with the HRS study? It's the most comprehensive study of economic well-being for retirees. I think it's 55 and older, maybe 51 and older, I can't remember. But anyway, they say, Josh, you're 55 years old. We're going to study you from your 60 to 65 to 70, 75, we're going to follow you. It's called a longitudinal study. And if you read my book, Relax and Retire, you know what that is. So we're going to follow Josh and Charlotte from now until they die. The core interview, they interviewed me today, and they interviewed me, this guy, I'm still alive in the future. That's a core interview. Then they have something else called an exit interview. So I die, Charlotte dies, they interview Maddie, my oldest daughter, or they interview my sister, something like that. They'll say, Josh is dead. Can you give us some data set on what he ended up spending for his his last couple of years of your life? That's an exit interview. So the core interviews are the people who are still alive. I hope that makes sense. And check this out. 93% of the people are in the core interviews. All right, so we got a pretty big population set here. And if you look, nursing home, what? So if you look at 95th percentile of the 93% of the population in their survey of it's like 20,000 people in their survey or households. In the 95th percentile, no one had any nursing home expenditures if you were still alive. Nobody did. Now you had insurance cost. In the 95th percentile, your insurance cost was $7,705. And that's in 2000 and I'm not sure, $14. So let's just say we extrapolate that at 5.5%. We'll say that's we'll put that at about $13,000 in today's numbers. And the 95th percentile, they spent $13,000 on insurance, and you can see everything was $12,682. We'll put that as about $22,000 or so in the 95th percentile. In the 99th percentile, they spent $25,000. That's including nursing homes. And we'll put that at about $45,000. The 99th percentile. Now, I know, but Josh, I had people who go to a nursing home. Yeah, and if we look at the exit interviews, these are people who are dead. You'll see what? No one spent anything on a nursing home other than the top 10%. So we take 100 people, 93 are still alive. No one spent anything on a nursing home other than 93 people except for the 1 percentile. Then we take the 7% of the people who had died, and only right here in the 90th percentile or higher did anyone spend anything on a nursing home. Now, my mom she's still alive, so she has home health services. She's right in here. She has people that come to her house in home health care, help her, home health services, some outpatient surgery. but she's not in a nursing home. And she's a little bit inpatient. And she spends a lot of money on healthcare because she always has. But look at that. So even if you died, you have to be in the 90th percentile of the people who died to have spent anything on a nursing home. Now, that doesn't mean you don't have insurance costs. Look, the 75th percentile, your insurance, $3,300. Huh. What am I using for right capital and insurance costs? With Part B, Part D, and a supplemental policy and some out-of-pocket expenses and copays? About $550 a month. So if you take this number right here at, $3,300, that's the 70th percentile, 75th percentile. That's about $6,600, a little bit less than $6,600. So that's what I charge people in right capital, about $550 a month. And in the 50th percentile, I'm overestimating health insurance costs. Isn't that crazy? Isn't that crazy? Yes, it is. So the average, and again, the average is skewed towards the big spenders, is $15,000 a year for total, for everything, to include nursing home. To include nursing home is the average. Put that at $28,000 today. That's the average. And again, that's skewed towards the outliers. And if we exclude the nursing home, the average is about $18,000. But we don't really care about the average. We really care about the 75th percentile, actually even the 90th percentile. And what we'll see here is $21,000 is in the 90th percentile if we exclude nursing homes. And we'll just double that for simplicity. That's $40,000 roughly. That's going to be enough to keep you from retiring because you might have to spend $40,000. Or we say, but I could spend more. I could be this guy right here, $166,000. That's a 99th percentile. It means 1% of the population. Again, if we look back at the studies from Jones and Dinardi, we have some issues on that, but we'll just use it. That's what, $300,000 in today's numbers? Yeah, about $300,000 in today's numbers. How do you afford that $300,000? Because that includes a nursing home. Well, you sell your house because it's physically impossible for you to live at your home and a nursing home at the same time. And we go back, but what if my husband needs a nursing home and I don't? That's not very likely to happen. I mean, there's a few. The vast majority of people, the woman takes care of the husband, wipes his butt, changes the diapers and all that, then he dies at home, and then if the wife needs to go to a nursing home, she will, and she does that by what? By selling the house. And yet the vast majority of people don't even go to a nursing home. And we'll end this with a thing here with Rowetter and Michael Hurd here. Let's check this out. This is kind of confusing, but I'm going to still point this out with some data complications of the HRS. Household income in the wave preceding the measurement of spending averaged about $39,000. Wealth in the preceding wave was about $407,000. All right. Thus, during the 2 years of spending, total income was about $78,000, $39,000 times 2. And wealth declined by $24,000. In the absence of any reevaluation of wealth, these figures simply implied that households spend $102,000 on all spending items. Thus, they could not have spent $116,000 on healthcare. All right, so they're just taking major issues because they say the top 1% had a 2-year spending on healthcare alone of $116,000, and yet they say their household wealth only declined by $24,000. That doesn't make any sense. So anyway, I found that interesting. So again, we're looking at the data set. We're like, well, that doesn't make sense because where's that coming from? All right, right here. Because a healthy spouse typically cares for the unhealthy spouse until that spouse is very unhealthy and therefore closer to death, is relatively infrequent that one spouse is in a long-term nursing home and the other spouse is in the community. Right? And again, as I just pointed out, the vast majority of time, the healthy spouse takes care of the unhealthy spouse. We get hospice that come to the home, and then that unhealthy spouse, typically the man dies. It's just that simple, man. So all the naysayers on Suze Ormans of the world. Yes, I know we all have anecdotal evidence of people who spend a couple $100,000 on long-term care in that nursing home. So the question is, how do they fund that? Well, they funded it by selling their homes, man. It's just that simple. So the vast majority of us are not going to a nursing home. And the people who do go to a nursing home have the means to pay for it via selling their home or they're privately insured. If they have long-term care, but most don't. But their resources. And if you don't, Medicaid does kick in. And that's the benefit of Medicaid and why we should not use Medicaid if we have the resources, because there are people who do need Medicaid. But again, the vast majority of people don't even use this to begin with. So if that's what keeping you from retirement, like what are you not even reading the data set? Or you let me do it, it's fine. But when we read the data set, we're like, it's just not that big of a deal. But that's, from 2002, 4, 6, 8, 10, and 12. That's not current. Oh, my goodness. EBRI, my man Banerjee Sudipto. Is that Banerjee Sudipto? Or is it Sudipto Banerjee? I forgot. I think it's Banerjee. Have written a great takedown of this in 2018. The actual out-of-pocket expenditures for healthcare. It's just not. Again, there's a few people in the outlier that spend a lot, but the vast majority of people just don't spend that much. And I imagine that'll be you. All right, love your thoughts. Don't forget to subscribe to my locals channel because we dive into this stuff. It's in the Doobly Duke. And if these videos help you, you want to buy me a cup of Joe, it's in the Doobly Duke as well. Much appreciated. We'll see ya.